That big rock back there, that's the whole ABC Friday night schedule, right over there in mass entombment. But seriously, since this is Halloween, we're going to go beyond the traditional concepts of All Hallows Eve, of kids dressed up in funny costumes going around saying trick or treat and knocking over garbage cans and asking for candy bars. Going beyond the old logos of Halloween witches racing across the moon on broomsticks, and talk about the occult, about paganism, about covens, about people who practice witchcraft as a religion, as a tradition. It goes back in many, many cases far before the time of Christ and before the establishment of Christianity, Judaism, and the other organized religions as we know them today. So we'll clear away some of the fog and get our act together, and I suggest that you turn the lights down low and get ready not for a good scare, but for a real trip through witchcraft and what Halloween is all about right after these announcements.
Some idiot probably spent a lifetime making this lighter feel good in your hand. Big deal. But for $1.49 and thousands of lights, it's a pretty good lighter. Big butane.
This lighter comes in a lot of colors, like white, orange, yellow, blue, and green. But it isn't avocado green. Anyway, for $1.49 and thousands of lights, it's a pretty good lighter. Big butane.
Personally, I don't smoke. But for $1.49 and thousands of lights, it's a pretty good lighter. Big butane.
Hey, this isn't Alpo beef chunks dinner.
Honey, it's just like Alpo.
Read the ingredients.
Meat byproducts, barley. That's cereal.
Now check the Alpo.
Meat byproducts, beef, not a speck of cereal.
That's right. Alpo has the beef she loves, plus soy, vitamins, and minerals for a complete diet.
Baby, from now on, it's Alpo for you.
Doesn't your dog deserve Alpo?
For girls who like curls but don't like curlers, Sunbeam introduces Mist Stick Curler Styler. Sunbeam controls the heat. You control the mist. Use it for touch-up curls. Use it for bouncy all-over curls. It's this easy. Sunbeam Mist Stick Curler Styler. Because you want curls without the curlers. Give her the Sunbeam Mist Stick Curler Styler.
9 Lives presents Morris.
Look, Morris, a darling kitty.
If that's a cat, I'm a bald eagle. That's no cat. Cats look dignified.
Want some din-din, dear?
Cats are also finicky.
Some 9 Lives?
9 Lives.
Super supper? How about tuna?
Rich red 9 Lives tuna.
9 Lives, nutritious foods cats really like, even Morris.
9 Lives could make a stuffed cat hungry.
Now, to introduce to you the first 2 gentlemen who will be spending some time with us on the broadcast this morning, and I guess I will start on my right-hand side with Mr. Ed Fitch, who identifies himself as a witch and who by day is an electronics engineer and who by eventide has a coven, is married to a lady which he is training at this time, I am told, to be a high priestess. He has trained many people in this regard. He is a practitioner of both high and low magic. As I understand this, Ed, low magic is a simple thing like getting rid of warts on the face or something like that, and the high magic pertains to things more serious, such as illnesses or real problems that people have. And my second guest is Mr. Isaac Bonewits, who has a degree in magic, in the occult sort of magic, not the card trick sort, from the University of California here in Los Angeles, UCLA, who is the author of Gnostica. This is a magazine, the premier journal in this country, I'm told, of occultism, paganism, psychic phenomena, and all the other subjects on this program that have become so near and dear to us, and I welcome Isaac and Ed to the broadcast. I was about to identify you as a witch, and that would not be correct, would it?
No.
How do you two differ?
Well, witchcraft today, is, in the sense that Ed follows it, is a specific neo-pagan religion that is similar but not the same as the neo-pagan religion that I follow as my own personal system of belief. It's like saying that a Lutheran is not the same thing as a Methodist. but they're both one variety of middle-of-the-road.
What you're saying to me, in essence, is that there are divisions within witchcraft, much the same as there are within Christianity or within Judaism.
Or Buddhism or any other religion. Yes.
Major religion. All right. Now, how long have you been a practicing witch?
Oh, for about 7 years since my initiation. Actually, I'd been practicing it for a number of years before that. It took a good while to contact an appropriate group. There are, put-ons all over the place, I guess one might say, but the real McCoy is hard to come by. And so, in trying to find this, one does a good bit of reading, a good bit of researching, a bit of practicing, and occasionally making a few mistakes that are rather humorous in retrospect.
Let me say here at the outset that I don't mean to offer our little set here with the smoke and the fire and all that as in any way being evidentiary of witchcraft as it is practiced seriously, but just in keeping with the holiday itself, with All Hallows Eve, we kind of put together some special effects, and I hope that you don't mind.
Well, that's incredibly trite, you know.
Well, what's incredibly trite? What I just said or what we've done here?
Well, the set. I mean, people have a great deal of difficulty understanding paganism, the occult, and witchcraft, and this is a fairly good example of a lot of the sorts of triggers that people think about when they start thinking about these fields. And they're triggers that have been carefully planted in them by years and years of what I can only call repressive propaganda. The problem is, you know, there used to be an old saying, does Macy's tell Gimbals? Does Ford Motor Company tell you how wonderful Chevrolets are? Well, for the past 2,000 years, the major religious forces in the West have been actively trying to stamp out the people and the beliefs of indigenous pagan religions throughout Europe and wherever they went in the world, and trying to accept the standard Christian definitions of witchcraft.
See, the more you talk this way, the more unhappy the spirits of the Tomorrow program become. If you keep this up, we're going to be enveloped in smoke out here for 2,000 years.
Well, you see, a few of the stereotypes come fairly close to some of the truths, which have been lost. This cauldron over here, which is a beauty, by the way.
Isn't that nice?
Oh, it's lovely.
Would you like to take it home with you, sir?
I'll tuck it into my Volkswagen.
Or would you like to trade this for what's behind the tree over there?
No, but I'd like to know your blacksmith.
No, the cauldron itself refers to one of the ancient items of wisdom. There is a very ancient legend of the cauldron from which all wisdom sprang. It's an old Irish, Welsh, Scottish legend, and goes all over Europe. In one form, it's the Christian story of the Holy Grail. And so consequently, you can have perhaps some magical spells done over some things such as this. In setting the stage, working through the mind to accomplish something. Perhaps there was a real Holy Grail, perhaps there was a real cauldron of Carradwin, hard to say. But you can tune your mind into such things, and because the subconscious is really where so-called magic operates.
I want to talk about magic. What kind of magic do you do? Now, you don't turn red playing cards into blue playing cards, and you don't make ladies disappear, and you don't saw gentlemen in half, or make things rise up off the floor. What is it that we're talking about here?
The briefest definition I know of for magic, as I have studied it and trained myself in the field, is folk parapsychology. It's the systems that people all over the world have developed for millennia to allow their subconscious psychic talents to operate in a fairly reliable fashion.
Isaac, never mind the big words. Give it to me in simple language. It's, you know, late at night and...
Magic is a collection of rule-of-thumb techniques for using ESP and psychokinesis and other talents of this sort. And there are basic laws of magic that are the same all over the world because they're based on basic human neural patterns and basic human physical patterns. And they've been kept for all these centuries because they work.
Can you demonstrate this kind of magic on a television program? Does it concern itself with, not with illusions, but with demonstrations of psychic power, or psychokinesis, as you call it?
I would say that perhaps 95% of what is done takes place entirely in the mind.
It's not a visible thing.
Sometimes it will be. Such things as that are very, very hard to predict when it's going to actually happen. When preparing for this show, as a matter of fact, with some of your staff members, I was talking to them about magic in this very excellent restaurant across the street here, and the table behind me suddenly caught on fire.
The staff member must have performed a magic trick, because that is a lousy restaurant. And
their beer is good.
Well, you can't miss.
No,
the problem is that...
No, I want the man to finish it. At the table, what happened?
At the table, well, the table behind us, the center of it burst into flame while we were talking. We could call it strictly a coincidence, and perhaps it was, but it was rather interesting that I was describing the basic techniques on how something worked in a magical operation when suddenly it happened. It was intriguing, but it could all be marked off as coincidence, very logically. But yet one finds that there are so many coincidences going when you do this that it cannot be coincidental.
You identify yourselves as pagans, am I correct on that?
Indeed.
Yes.
Now, we, in the un-nether world, always identify paganism as being somehow connected with sexual rites and nude people and orgiastic affairs. Am I going down the wrong road in assuming that that is a part of your paganism?
Sounds interesting, but it is down the wrong road. If you can find out where, please tell us. We'd like to join
Well,
up.
in all of the media presentations on witchcraft that are fictionalized, and I suppose the most notable would be Rosemary's Baby some years ago, and in all of the art layouts, the color photographic layouts that are done in magazines, we always find a voluptuous woman's body being used as an altar, and there is a red substance that looks much the same as blood dripping over her, you know right where that is, don't you, ladies and gentlemen? Yes.
No, Satanism has absolutely nothing to do with either paganism or with modern witchcraft movement. You can't worship Satan unless you believe in the Christian system of mythology in which you have a Satan and a Christ who are real figures. If you don't believe in Christian religion, it's stupid to worship Satan.
You see, what we follow is a system, even though Isaac's brand differs considerably from mine on the surface, underneath we are identical. What we follow is something that far, far predates Christianity, far predates the individual known as Satan and all this sort of stuff. Satan is really, or Satanism is really Christianity turned upside down.
We had a gentleman on the program last year whose name escapes me, Simon something from Kentucky, who was on the police force there by day, and who gave us a demonstration of a demonic curse where he had a little wax figure of a man, and he identified this as a living being, although not by name, and he put the sword through it and burned it and melted it, and it was terrifying to watch. Now, that's not what you're into. That's Satanism. Paganism is something totally apart.
We will use waxen images, but in my coven, when we take a waxen image, we will take somebody who is seriously ill, and the doctors have done all they can, and we will work for perhaps an hour making a waxen image using perhaps a little bit of hair, a fingernail clipping or so. We will work on it, and all of us understanding precisely what is wrong with this individual, and we will work using our own methods to heal. And we've gotten some very spectacular results this way. Healing is fun. I would much rather heal than harm. And when you harm, we have a rule that whatever you do to somebody else is going to eventually bounce back on you 3 times over, at least.
All right. I must pause here for a word from our affiliated stations. And, gee, I forgot to mention that beautiful gravestone back there. That's the laugh-in. Remember that? We will continue after these announcements, and I trust you will all stay tuned. Thank you.
What about?
At spectacular Santa Anita this Sunday, the Oak Tree Invitational, a closing day marathon raced over 1.5 miles on Santa Anita's unique hillside infield grass course. It's an invitational, so only the best go to the post, and it's for $100,000. Don't miss closing day of Oak Tree's meeting at Santa Anita this Sunday afternoon. First race, 12:30.
What happened was true. The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even if one of them survives, what will be left? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After you stop screaming, you'll start talking about it. Rated R.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre opens today at theaters and drive-ins everywhere.
You can do your own thing with fun and with flair. You can go through the day with hardly a care, with the natural look, the natural feeling, to know you're the best you can be.
Natural Natural Wear Miss Clairol, the improved hair color that conditions, covers gray, looks and wears so natural week after week. Try Natural Wear Miss Clairol hair color.
To know you're the best you can be.
A decade ago, Edmund Brown Jr. was a special attorney for the state Supreme Court, working on California's tough legal decisions. As a county crime commissioner and college trustee, he wrote a plan to improve the educational quality of police training. Brown voted to establish daycare centers for working mothers. With Mayor Tom Bradley, he fought to provide money for rapid transit. As Secretary of State, Brown has a national reputation for tough election law enforcement. He's done a lot for us. As governor, he can do a lot more.
We continue now with Mr. Isaac Bonewits, whom I identified as the author of a magazine. He is the editor of that magazine, right, Gnostica, and he is the author of a book which is entitled Real Magic, which again does not have to do with card tricks, but rather with the kinds of things that we've been discussing here in the first couple of moments. And Mr. Ed Fitch, the witch.
Oh, the pain.
And also, Mr. Bonewits' degree in magic is not from UCLA, but rather it's from Berkeley. You see, I'm really not quite ready for this tonight. Not many television hosts tell you how they blow it night after night, but you know old Tom. Now, I really haven't satisfied my curiosity about the sexual implications of paganism. Can I rest assured that there are none, or are there some?
Oh, very heavily sublimated, perhaps one could say. Perhaps the basic drive behind magic, as behind many human endeavors, is sexual. Freud said that back 100 years ago. But by channelizing it from this rough, raw source into something more refined, you can get something more refined accomplished. In other words, you can write books, you can write movies, you can work magic by sublimating the sexual drive.
How many covens in witchcraft and the religion itself would you say there are where they have orgies, where acts of sexual intercourse are performed?
The problem we've got is this. There are many different factions of the modern neo-pagan witchcraft movement, some of which are very puritanical, some of which are very earthy. The problem we're running into here is that to most pagans, there's nothing dirty about sex.
Of course not. To most Christians, there's not. And to most Jewish people, there's not, I hope.
Well, the problem is that the Christian religion set up a dualism of the body versus the spirit, and all of the absolute black and white dichotomies that are so totally false to a pagan's mind. And there are branches of paganism, some of which are still alive today, that do use sex in their rituals, but they aren't these wild orgies like you see in these grade B novels. And they're very beautiful rituals.
Well, for example?
Quite frequently, you will find that in some rituals, husbands and wives will have intercourse as part of the ritual. Now, in the majority of the witchcraft movements that I'm familiar with today, this is sublimated into a symbolic union with, say, a knife and a cup, or a sword and a cauldron, as symbols of the male and
Essentially, it would be no more than something like this. And with an appropriate chant.
Well, that doesn't quite get it.
Well, it would never sell movies. We would never get an extra Satanism in North Hollywood or beautiful downtown Burbank or wherever.
See, the point is that most pagans are not going into the religious trip just for an excuse for sex, because people who are pagans already have a relaxed attitude of sex, and they don't need to dress up in funny costumes or put a veneer of magic on in order to have sex. They do it all the time, so why should they need to deliberately seek out a religion that does it?
Exactly. It does not become for them a swinging affair.
Yeah, precisely. For them, it's an integral, sacred part of their religion when they do it. And there's
in
nothing
ceremonies
worried
and the
about
like, you know, I've been in the craft for a good while, and I'm afraid I have not seen any of this sort of thing. We've, I don't know, I guess we might be considered Presbyterians or something.
Speaking of that, what was your religious background when you were a child?
Oh, I was an Adventist.
Seventh-day Adventist.
Raised in the church there, which is a very excellent Christian church, but it did not fit me, and I eventually broke away, became an atheist for all of about 2 weeks, then an agnostic for several years after that, with much searching. In the Orient, I tried Buddhism and did a good bit of researching until I stumbled onto witchcraft, which is defined as paganism, the old religion which predates Christianity. And then I began to realize that I'd found a home.
And yourself?
I was raised a Roman Catholic and studied for the priesthood. Was told to go away from the seminary and never come back again because I had a habit of asking awkward questions.
Such as?
Oh, pointing
Why
out
does the sun
basic
keep
flaws
on
in the
shining?
Summa Theologica, pointing out basic historical problems like if Christianity is a religion of the Prince of Peace, how come anywhere from 250,000 to 6 million witches and heretics were burned at the stake by the church and so forth. And awkward questions are not appreciated in Catholicism.
No, Father Superior has a way of getting upset
Yes, he does.
with that sort of question.
And I got involved actively in the field of the occult when I was 13, starting off with meeting a woman from New Orleans who was involved in voodoo. And I spent my teenage years investigating a large number of different groups. Quite a few of whom threw me out for heresy, again, asking awkward questions. And eventually I went to the University of California and began to study seriously.
Are you comfortable with your present beliefs and practices? You seem to be most
very
comfortable with it, and you find no, I don't want to use your word dichotomy, but you don't find any, what's the word I'm looking for?
In diversity, there is richness. There is not conflict with us. There is a richness. There's so much that one can investigate.
You don't find any contradictions in your...
No, it works out very well indeed.
You have no embarrassing questions about witchcraft?
If we have the embarrassing questions, we ask them, we work it out, we research it, and we...
If necessary, we change it. This is what marks a neo-pagan, is a person who is willing to investigate the old or paleo-pagan systems, take what they think is appropriate for the 20th century, and change the things he or she doesn't like. We have no objection to changing things that we feel are inappropriate to living in America in the 20th century. We have no popes, we have no authorities on high who order us how to think and order us how to pray and order us how to structure our lives. We take the responsibility of our own as adult human beings to decide how we will orient ourselves towards the universe.
Gentlemen, I must pause here for a word from our sponsors, and there's one way back in the corner that's been there for years. My mother, the car, is buried there, and that was a tough one to get down, I want to tell you.
Requiescat in Parque.
Yes. What was that?
Requiescat in Parque. That's French for rest in margarine.
Oh, I thought it was...
Heaven Nagila.
Something. We'll pass by to these commercial announcements and continue with Fitch the Witch and Isaac Bonewits, and I trust you'll stay tuned. Thank you.
Imagine feeling so good in the morning when you had that headache last night. That's gentle Excedrin PM. Excedrin PM relieves the headache and its tension, helps you relax for a good night's sleep. So the next morning you should wake refreshed with no grogginess. Imagine feeling so good in the morning when you had that headache last night. That's Excedrin PM, the nighttime pain reliever. Imagine feeling so good in the morning.
Duracell batteries last longer. To prove it, we put Duracell batteries into one of these flashlights and regular carbon batteries into all the others. In continuous use, regular batteries give up after just a few hours. But Duracell batteries keep going, lasting 3, 4, up to 5 times longer than regular batteries. So ask for Duracell. The copper top battery. No regular battery looks like it or lasts like it.
Hey, everybody out there, you know what Lipton Cup soup is? Quickalicious.
You aren't kidding, kid. Rich, thick soup, right when I want it.
Chicken and noodles, tomatoes, mushrooms.
We love it. We love it. Quickalicious. So what do you think, America?
Cup of soup is quickalicious. The soup that only Lipton makes.
Hi, this is Dean Martin, inviting you to join me for a special Dean Martin roast. The man of the hour will be none other than America's favorite comedian, Mr. Bob Hope. Here to honor him will be my guests Jimmy Stewart, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, Jack Benny, Billy Graham, Howard Cosell, John Wayne, Flip Wilson, Governor Ronald Reagan, Phyllis Diller, Neil Armstrong, and Don Rickles. Join us for the fun Thursday at 10, 9 Central Time here on NBC. I'll save a ringside seat for you.
Limousines for some of the tomorrow guests are provided by London Town Livery Service Limited.
We had thought of putting up a slide of just a broom and saying limousines for the people tonight were provided by Fuller Brush Company. Let me introduce to you now two other gentlemen who will be with us for the balance of the program. First of all, Mr. Fred Adams, who was a social worker and in the occult world has been called by no less an authority than Hans Holzer. I don't know if that's funny or not. The greatest, the greatest pagan leader in the world today. And please don't laugh, Isaacs, because Hans will call on the telephone and demand equal time. He is the creator and the head of a pagan organization which is called Fairyfaria. This is a cult which combines ancient Cretan wisdom, Greek tradition, Celtic ritual, and fairy faith, which I'm not going to go into at this time. Also, Mr. Polk Runyon, who by day is a salesman, by night is Grand Master of the OTA, the Order of the Temple of Astarte. Am I saying that correct, Mr. Runyon? This is a pagan organization which has as its focus the study and practice of ceremonial magic. And Mr. Runyon has with him this evening a bit of film, I believe, which we'll be seeing a little bit later on. But before we show that, I'd like to ask Mr. Runyon first about the Temple of Astarte and ceremonial magic. Is it similar to what Isaac and Ed, I was almost going to say Fitch the Witch again. Ed had been talking about here for the first half hour.
There are a lot of similarities. There are some differences. I think the main differences in it is that ceremonial magic is it has a biblical base. And when I say a biblical base, I don't mean that it's necessarily Christian or it's necessarily Jewish. What I mean is that it derives from a biblical mythology, so to speak. It also has something to do with the legend of Solomon containing the spirits in the brass bottle. You know, the Arabian Nights, the old Arabian Nights story? And the idea is, in ceremonial magic, is that one uses the names of power, the various names of God from the ancient Hebrew Kabbalah, to unlock this brass bottle and release these genies, so to speak. Now, actually, these genies are ancient pagan gods. Now, in our particular tradition, they're the gods of ancient Phoenicia or ancient Canaan, the gods of Mesopotamia, and the gods of Egypt. So we're a sort of a Middle Eastern Palestinian tradition, whereas the witchcraft cult is primarily drawing their mythology from Europe, from the Celtic and the Greek and the European tradition.
Would turning wine into water be called ceremonial magic?
No, I wouldn't call it ceremonial magic. I'd call it a good trick if you could do it.
I'm told he did it. Now, let's take a look at this little bit of film, and maybe you can set up what we're going to see here. Right? This will be coming up in just a few seconds. This is...
Right. What you're seeing here is an entrance circumambulation into the OTA temple. The members are coming in and preparing to receive the opening charges, which they'll be receiving as they open the lodge. Now, here is the high priestess opening the temple, and the lights of the lodge, of course, will be lit. This is a communion of the elements. This is a mass of 7 sacraments. You see the dagger and the cup that Ed was talking about there a little while ago. This is a tradition we share with the witchcraft cult. And this communion of the elements takes place around the magic circle, which we'll see in a little bit. The priest and the priestess here are sharing the elements of the communion between themselves before they administer it to the celebrants. Here she is holding the bread and the salt on the pentacle of earth. This is one of the 4 magical weapons. The priest, as you see, is holding the wand. These weapons in our tradition do relate to the Holy Grail legend. There is, of course, the wand, or there's the magic circle you see there, with the name of Raphael, I believe, is the angel we have in that eastern quadrant. The celebrants are going around the circle, deicil, or clockwise, and receiving each of these 4 elements. They will inhale the incense, and they'll take the bread and the salt, they'll drink the wine, and they'll pass their hands over the fire. So you see, this actually has 2 more essential elements.
Just for the basis of comparison, could the magic circle be compared to a tabernacle or to a sanctuary of sorts within the temple?
Not exactly. I think the better analogy, Tom, would be that it would be a representation of the universe itself. It represents, the circular aspect represents the universe itself, and of course the pentagram in the center of it represents man. You know, the six-pointed star is here. Now here we have an actual ceremonial magic operation. This is one of these operations where we summon a spirit from the brass bottle in the Arabian Nights. Now you see the Magus standing behind the receiver, and she is staring at the triangle of art. Magic is a hypnotic process, and a lot of people don't understand this. They think that, that something's supposed to come down on a moonbeam or come up through a crack in the floor. That's not the case. Now you notice the Magus there wearing the sun cornet is manipulating the wand, but he's intoning a 300-year-old conjuration from the Lemegeton, or Lesser Key of Solomon. The receiver there, or the seeress, is holding the evocation candle, staring at the triangle of art. She is in a trance, and she will evoke one of these god forms from her deep mind, or her unconscious, if you will, and she will see it as an extra-personalized entity outside the circle.
Mm-hmm. You know, when you say magic, and I'm guilty of this, I keep expecting some kind of a trick to take place, or fire to erupt, or something to burn, or the room to shake. Yet thinking back through some of the other religions with which I have a little familiarity, in the Roman Catholic Mass, for example, at that time, which is called transubstantiation, which I'm certain you're quite familiar with, Isaac, where the wine and the bread is turned into the body and blood of Christ. I mean, this does not happen on the altar, yet the people who are at the Mass believe that it is happening at that time, and I guess that's what the magic that you talk about here.
It happens for them inside themselves, and that's what's important.
Well, the problem is that you've got four people here now, each of whom would definitely qualify as an authority on magic and the occult, and I'm sure that out of the four of us, you could get at least 37 different definitions of magic. Mm-hmm. And that would be just barely scratching the surface. Most definitions of magic fall into either the religious approach or the mundane approach. Some people use magic for religious or theurgical purposes, the idea of you're studying magic in order to develop yourself spiritually. Others, predominantly the third world cultures that I have emphasized my study of, consider magic to be a technology. They take the thaumaturgical approach that says, I'm interested in results, in making it rain and making the crops grow.
I don't have the foggiest idea of what that word means.
The thaumaturgy?
Yes.
Okay, thaumaturgy comes from the Greek and means wonder working. Theurgy comes from the Greek and means divine working. So it's the engineer's approach versus the theologian's approach.
All right. No.
Or perhaps low magic versus high magic.
Some people use that term, right? I think it's bigoted, but some people use that term.
All right, let me get on to Polk Runyon here after these announcements from our affiliated stations, and we will talk about his organization, Fariferia, and we will do that after these announcements, and I trust all of you will stay tuned. Thank you.
This 8-digit memory calculator obsoletes other units, adds, subtracts, divides, multiplies, with algebraic logic, floating decimal, negative balance, with automatic constant, percentage, memory, and memory recall functions, unconditionally guaranteed for 6 months. Batteries last so long you don't need an adapter. In the Wall Street Journal, this memory calculator is advertised at $59.95. Buy it for $29.99, Saturday at the Akron.
I'm George Plimpton for Walden Books. The Duke of Windsor was King of England when his love for the American divorcee Wallis Simpson became more important to him than his crown. The woman he loved tells this whole story of their courtship, his abdication, the marriage, and the sensation caused around the world. Here it is, The Woman He Loved, which is the story of one of the greatest romances of our time. It's now at Walden Books. Call this number for the store nearest you.
Everyone knows a big box can carry more than a small box, and a bigger market can carry more than a smaller one. Because Ralph's is usually bigger, Ralph's can pledge you more ways to save, an average of 15,000 different items, up to 1/3 more than most others. More choices, more room to save. There are all kinds of discount markets, but only one that's really super. Ralph's, it's almost a market and a half. Join the switch.
It'll be perfect tonight. Oh, I
followed the garment instructions last month and washed it. That helped me lose 5 pounds. So I took it to my tender professional dry cleaner. He explained how washables need dry cleaning to help keep their shape. And, huh? That's why you called? You can't go tonight? Oh. Hey, why don't you take your leather jacket to the tender professional? He's a dry cleaner who really knows.
I am pamper you in their 747 Superbird to Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Bangkok. En route stopover in Hawaii. Call your travel agent. It costs no more.
All right, we have been discussing with Polk Runyon here the OTA, and now from Fred Adams we will hear something about the Feraferia Society. And as I say, Mr. Adams has been called by no less an authority than Hans Holzer the greatest pagan leader in the world. What is Feraferia?
If I may start first, I would like, as much as I appreciate what Hans has said about me, there can be no greatest pagan leader in the world because that is contrary to the spirit of paganism.
All right.
Okay, thank you. What is Feraferia? Feraferia is a religion based, first of all, on the ancient Greek mystery cultus, or society, shall we say, of Eleusis, which emphasized the continuity of nature through mothers and daughters. In other words, at Eleusis, they didn't have a savior, they had a savioress, a daughter, whereas Christ the Son is savior for Christians. Kori, the daughter, is savioress, or the spiritual guarantee of immortality for Eleusinians. Behind the Eleusinian focus, there is the broader plane of ancient Minoan Crete, which was a heavily and delightfully and playfully focused goddess religion. And behind that is the whole megalithic tradition, which is worldwide, which was characterized by the building of tremendous stone temples that created what is technically known as the topocosm. That is, a landscape which contains the cosmos. In other words, relates land forms to star forms.
Before I try to understand that, is Feraferia a religion which centers around femaleness?
Indeed it does.
Why?
Why? Because that can only be answered paradoxically. There's no way of rationalizing that or proving that by rigorous method.
No, except
yes.
the reason I ask for the comparison is because the conventional religions, if I may call them that, are centered around maleness.
Yes.
God the Father, the elders, the fathers of the church, the priests, everything is maleness.
That's right. I would say that in general, neo-pagan groups tend to stress the femininity. In a way, it's due to the historical process, the need to counterbalance the overemphasis of the masculine during the Piscean Age, the last 2,200 years. Also, I feel in some absolute sense that femininity is that transcendent principle which allows immanent or right here masculinity and femininity to find balance. There's a kind of transcendent or greater femininity that allows that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Feraferia is a true polytheism. We actually have a whole family of goddesses and gods which we consider distinct from the beginning or for all time. I'm not talking about different aspects of the same divinity, but we have a family of goddesses and gods. However, these are centered on the maiden savioress, and we speak, therefore, of the queendom of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
These can manifest as tremendous trans-cosmic bodies. They can be seen by those who are spiritually developed enough, or they manifest for us in nature as the forces that keep nature working for us all the time, ecologically, psychically, and biologically.
They are cueing me to some visual material, which I believe you have provided us with. Have you not? Why don't we take a look at that, and does this, all right?
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can see that. It's one of our autumn ceremonies. And it's a reenactment of the Eleusinian mysteries, or at least a part of the mysteries, that were celebrated in ancient Greece, adapted to the ecological realities of Southern California. Right now, we're calling down the powers of nature as they manifest in autumn along great lines called lays, which are straight lines through which powers of nature are supposed to pour into a given sacred center. It's an ancient science.
Feraferia has great belief in the ecology, does it not, in preserving environment and in restoring some kind of natural balance?
The whole religious mission is based on the reunification of humanity with the biosphere, that is the nature, nature on this planet, wilderness I'd rather call it.
Let me ask all four of you, how secret are ceremonies in witchcraft and covens and temples of witchcraft? Are they meant to be very secret?
Most people would not understand them. That's the main reason for secrecy. The things that are the most important could probably be put up on billboards, but the only ones that could really understand them would be the ones whose minds were ready for it in the first place.
Fred, the ceremony that we're watching, was that a secret thing?
No, there are secret ceremonies within Feraferia which are only to be witnessed by those who are prepared for them. Because as Ed says, if people who weren't prepared for them saw them, they just simply couldn't appreciate them.
Not because there is anything that happens there which is unlawful or which might be revolting to human beings or unacceptable in what we call...
I'd say the average secret pagan or magical ceremony is about as lurid and intoxicating and exciting as a Baptist Sunday school picnic.
All right, fair enough.
You see, one problem, people go into wilderness parks and they trash up those areas with beer bottles and with candy wrappers. The same thing can be done in what we call the inner planes. If the methods that are kept to ourselves of reaching the inner planes of existence, the higher planes of spiritual being, are opened up to everyone, then psychically they can be covered, these realms can be covered with garbage also, you see. That's another reason for so-called secrecy.
I think one common strain you'll find through all of our groups is that we have an intense respect for life, human, animal, plant, the world itself.
I don't know a single pagan or neo-pagan group in existence today that does not have a very strong ecological emphasis. This is in direct contrast to the development of Western religion, which has been arrogant towards the environment. No less an authority than Arnold Toynbee, the historian, has said that it is predominantly the development of Western Christianity that led to the present ecological crisis. The idea that man had dominion over the earth, and it was his right to pollute it and to trash it up and to rape the surface of the Mother Earth.
How do you feel about a life hereafter, whether it be one of reward or punishment?
I believe that all of us here, and correct me if I'm wrong, do hew to the belief in reincarnation.
You're wrong.
Or at least the probability.
Well, I don't. I don't hew to that.
Well, I know you don't, but okay, you don't. But I say
I mean, I want it to be true, but I don't know if I believe it.
Well, let's say we consider the probability of it, and I think that probably would characterize Ed, Fred, myself, and...
But not Isaac, I don't.
No, I do not have a personal belief in reincarnation or in survival after death, and that's not a required belief in the groups with which I work. I just say, I don't know. I'll find out when the time comes.
Won't we all?
Yes.
All right.
But a part of my own tradition involves, well, as far as the individual is curious about it, researching by various methods and by suitable trance, utilizing devices to concentrate the attention, you can get a few pictures of what you may have been doing in the past with a fair chance that it might actually be for real. Who knows? We'll find out about that when the time comes too.
The last program that we did on this a year ago this evening, we had as a prop a crystal ball with a small bubble in the center of it, which I've kept since then. And I know that this is going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but I love to look in that thing and just let images wander through my mind while looking into it. It has a very, what shall I say, tranquilizing effect.
The secret is all. You're into the occult.
Aha. No,
You're one of us. It's too late now, you said it.
We will continue after these announcements as the Tomorrow program ticks away from Southern California.
On November 5th, David Brinkley and I will be reporting on the 1974 elections, along with a really sizable team of correspondents and experts, all designed to tell you what the American people are saying at the polls about Watergate, the economy, and other issues. We think we do this well, and traditionally, more people watch NBC News for election returns than any other network, and once again, we'll cover it all election night.
Beginning at 3:30 p.m. on NBC.
You to join me for a special Dean Martin roast. The man of the hour will be none other than America's favorite comedian, Mr. Bob Hope. Here to honor him will be my guests Jimmy Stewart, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, Jack Benny, Billy Graham, Howard Cosell, John Wayne, Flip Wilson, Governor Ronald Reagan, Phyllis Diller, Neil Armstrong, and Don Rickles. Join us for the fun Thursday at 10, 9 Central Time here on NBC. I'll save a ringside seat for you.
Well, I make $120 a week, and I save about $1.20 a month.
I made over $8 grand last year. What I saved wouldn't make a good tip.
Last year, I made 250,000 big ones. And if I do the same thing this year, I might break even.
Did I save any money last year? I don't want to think about it.
What did I save, you ask? Zip.
I make about $9 an hour. Last year, that's what I saved, $9.
America, staring you in the face is a way to actually save money. U.S. savings bonds. When you buy them through the payroll savings plan, you put your money away before you get a chance to spend it.
I made $6,700 last year. I managed to save over $300 through payroll savings. And you know, it didn't hurt a bit.
The payroll savings plan. When you don't see it, you don't spend it.
We have now changed our setup here just a little bit. Here in Southern California, we had hoped this evening to go out to a witch's coven and show in actuality a ceremony which might take place on All Hallows Eve. But because of technical problems, we were not able to do that. So Lady Moria, who has a coven of her own here in Southern California, has kindly consented to bring some of the members of her coven here, and she will attempt, in what could be a typical All Hallows Eve ceremony, she and her group will attempt to transmit some of their energies across the ether and through television to you at home, and I hope you will watch and enjoy and partake. Please.
Winds of heaven, blow through us. Waters of the moon, blow through us. Fires of the earth, blow through us. May the winds freshen, may the waters wash. May the fires burn away all earthly dross, that the loves of the gods may show through us. Eco, eco, Hazarak. Eco, eco, Zomalak. Eco, eco, Gananas. Eco, eco, Ararat. Eco, eco, Hazarak. Eco, eco, Zomalak. Eco, eco, Gananas. Eco, eco, Ararat. Eco, eco, Hazarak. Eco, eco, Zomalak. Eco, eco, Gananas. Eco, eco, Ararat. Eco, eco, Hazarak. Eco, eco, Zomalak. Eco, eco, Gananas. Eco, eco, Ararat. Eco, eco, Hazarak. Eco, eco, Zomalak. Eco, eco, Gananas. Eco, eco, Ararat. Eco, eco, Hazarak. Eco, eco, Zomalak. Eco, eco, Gananas. Eco, eco, Ararat.
May the energy which has been raised by this cone of power travel out onto the astral plane, there to carry forth to all who are watching the show. May you be enriched by this energy. May it bring peace and happiness unto your lives. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
At the sacred time of Samhain, we send forth our wishes with the spirits of the dead, since they are close to us now. One traditional way to do this is to tie a knot spell. Each within the circle think upon what they most desire. Put your desires into the knots as they are tied. The spirits of the dead will carry them forth, and they will become manifest on this plane. Knot of one, the spell's begun. Not of 2, the spell is true. Not of 3, may it be. Not of 4, I open the door. Not of 5, the spell will thrive. Not of 6, the spell I fix. Not of 7 binds earth and heaven. Not of 8, the spell of fate. Not of 9, the spell is mine. So be it.
So be it. So be it.
So be it.
So be it.
So be it. So be it.
So be it.
So be it. Spirits of the mighty dead, we ask that you carry forth these wishes of these people. Make them manifest in this life. May the blessings of the gods shine on us all. So will it be.
So will it be.
Thank you all very much. May I ask Lady Moria or the High Priest the significance of the placing of the bits of rope, the knots, and the cup?
The cup centers and focuses the wishes of all of the people so that they're directed out just as the cone of power needs. The tying of the knot helps to concentrate your subconscious desires into what you're doing.
I haven't asked anybody here this morning the reason for the significance of Halloween or All Hallows Eve. And I think it might be good to close on that note.
All right.
Why is this an important day in witchcraft?
Dating back to very, very ancient times, even prior to the Druids, the people of ancient Britain led a pastoral life, and the seasons were divided according to the beginning of winter and the beginning of summer, rather than the midpoints, which are shown by the solstices and equinoxes. And it had to do with when to plant their crops and also when the herds moved in for the winter season, when the herds bred, this kind of thing. Samhain is the first day of winter. It's the first day of the ancient witch year. It's considered to be the time when the spirits of the afterworld are in the closest contact with mankind, when the veil between this world and the next is extremely thin, and they can pass over.
Would it be appropriate for me to extend to you wishes for a happy Hallows Eve?
Thank you.
Well, I extend those to you, and thank you all for coming to our studio. And may I also thank at this time Ms. Jo Carson, who provided us with the motion picture film that we showed on the broadcast, and we'll continue and tell you about tomorrow's tomorrow after these announcements.
Sale. I'm still waxing. You wax every week. You're going to drown your furniture. It's the dust. Well, use Endust. Endust? I'll be right over. Watch. Endust picks up the dust and leaves the old wax looking like new. It really brightens, and it's faster than waxing. My garage sale.
Endust for between waxings. Faster for you,
good for your furniture.
The Hollywood Squares, a big hit on television, is now a bigger hit on a brand new record album. Zingers from the Hollywood Squares.
Paul Lynn, please.
Paul Dale Evans recently revealed the 3 secrets behind her happy marriage with Roy Rogers. Listen carefully. We work together, we pray together, and we're darn good, what? In the saddle.
Zingers from the Hollywood Squares.
Available at super low discount prices at all Kmart stores.
Joseph E. Levine presents The Night Porter, perhaps the most explosive, important, and controversial film you'll ever see. The Night Porter. It was cheered in London, praised in Paris, and confiscated in Rome. Newsweek International says Last Tango in Paris was a light-hearted romp compared to The Night Porter. Rated R.
The Night Porter opens today at Mann's Fine Arts Theater.
I'm George Plimpton. When you visit someone's home, don't you find that if there are books about, you feel there's an extra quality about your friend, and that he or she is somehow curious and concerned or cultured? Because, you know, a house without books in it suggests a lack, a sort of emptiness. Now, I'm not suggesting that you fill your home with books for the sake of appearances, because, after all, books are not window dressing, they're windows on the world. But if there's a bookstore near you, go in and browse. You can begin to build a library that would be a real joy in your life and a real benefit to your home.
A little ridiculous. Let me thank Mr. Isaac Bonewits and Ed Fitch and Fred Adams and Polk Runyon and Lady Moria for being with us on the program this morning and giving all of us a little introductory experience in are you there? in witchcraft. Now, tomorrow night in this time period, we'll be on the air without the smoke machine, and we'll present a program on old-time radio. With us will be the people from Lights Out.